All right, we're live, and we have some people streaming in. A couple of people. Hi, Evan. Hi, Phil. So we're just waiting for everyone to come in. Our panel is all here. So thank you, Benjamin. Thank you, Nico, Jason, Carl, and thank you, Ru, for helping me set this event up. So it wouldn't be possible without you. Yeah, we're just waiting for people to stream in. We have about 6, 10 already. Nice. Hello, Paul Emile, Arjun. Arjun is another great builder on Cargo for everything cybersec. So I'm hoping he's going to unmute himself at some point and share some wisdom. Hey, Joe, Anthony, hello. We have Louis as well. We have Riag, that's a familiar name. We have Nicola, Cassia. Thank you for coming, everyone. We're going to be starting in a couple of minutes. We're just waiting for people to stream in. Hello, Ian. Guys, where are we all based? Nico, where are you based with this very dubious background? What do you have to hide?
I'm hiding in Stockholm, even though it's daylight very late. I'm inside, so it's still very dark. Sweden for the time being.
Nice, nice. And Jason, where are you based? I can see an electric guitar behind you.
Yeah, no, I'm based in the East Coast, US in Connecticut.
Very nice. How's the weather there?
Yeah, it's warm right now. It's a bit cloudy today, but it's pretty good. We'll be in winter and getting snow over the next few months, though.
Nice, nice, nice. And Benjamin, hello. Is that your real background?
Well, try to guess.
It could almost be.
It's a real fake background. It's a real picture, but a fake background. It's a picture of our former Paris office, but I'm now based in Marseille, in the south of France.
Oh,
Nice. How is Marseille?
Pretending to be in Paris. Yes, Marseille is very nice, very sunny.
Nice.
I mean,
Nice.
there's a lot of the tech scene that like migrate to Marseille.
Oh, yeah?
Apparently, yeah.
So we have a
For
few
good
more people
reasons.
coming in. Hello, Louise. Hello, Angie. Kaviraj. Hello, Ed. Brandon. Welcome.
Hey, what's going on, Kavi? We got Kavi in from Singapore.
Nice. It must be super late in Singapore. I'm just gonna turn on the chat so that people can talk. Ru, could you help me out with with allowing the chat, because I don't seem to find the control. All right. I think we're pretty set. Let's start. Yeah. Ru, once you're good, give me the signal and we can start.
Yeah.
All good?
All good. Is the chat live? Can you just make sure?
Yeah, I'm not sure. If you want to take over control back for a couple of minutes, enable it and give it back to me, that would go. That would be fine.
Yeah, the thing is, I gave you access as a host.
Okay, got it.
Just go to the chat. And there's like 3 dots there. Just click on it and you can change it.
Yeah, let me set that up in a second. Okay, everyone, thank you for coming. This is our first ever cargo webinar. I'm from the people I can see in the chat, there's a lot of familiar names. So hello again. I see Jonathan, Mike Kramer, Louise. Yeah, there's obviously Aurélien from his bedroom joining in as well. So we really believe that the community in cargo is going to be a big strategic focus for us. And so obviously we need to get all these sort of like GTM pros that work with us, that know us in the community, to talk to each other. And one of the things that came up pretty quickly was we have a lot of cybersecurity users, and cybersecurity is particularly hard. So we said, okay, why not start off bringing all these cool people together to talk about how they do it. I'm gonna let everyone introduce themselves quickly. They're more or less either Cargo user for a long time, or they recently started using Cargo. If you don't know about what Cargo is, we're a workflow building company. We give superpowers, engineering superpowers, to people who are not engineers, who work in sales and marketing, to build flows that will otherwise be very, very difficult. If you want to find out more, we're always replying to our emails, our LinkedIn, and I'll be sharing links later. I'll also be sharing links for all the participants. So that's us. Let's start with the introductions. Jason, do you want to start?
Yeah, thanks, Sark. Cool to see everybody. I recognize some names out there. I'm at Zilla Security. Previously was in the solution architect and pre-sale side, so actually quite a long tech background, working in data centers. So definitely quite a bit of a different role, but I feel like where go-to-market's gone in particular, you certainly need a bit of a data analyst and engineering side. So my background there is tied really well to that, but excited to talk to everybody and see what DataDome and Elba are doing and supporting their go-to-market.
Awesome. Nice to have you here. Benjamin?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here too. So I'm Ben, leading the growth team at DataDome for 5 years now. Joined the company in 2018. DataDome is a bot and online fraud protection solution. We basically help e-commerce companies protect their website, mobile apps, and API against those threats. So happy to deep dive. My team is in charge of inbound, outbound, and ops. So a lot of topics that we can talk later on during the webinar.
Awesome. Happy to have you here, Benjamin, from Marseille. Karl?
Hey guys, nice to be here. So my name is Karl. I'm leading growth and go-to-market at Elba. Elba, we are a cybersecurity company, an all-in-one cybersecurity company from awareness training, phishing simulation to DLP and shadow IT. And yeah, I've joined Elba from the inception, more or less, like 3 years ago. And yeah, I'm in charge of go-to-market, which means a lot of things, and I'll be happy to discuss it.
Awesome. And then we have Nico. Nico is a familiar face with Cargo. Nico, tell us, where are you calling from? And maybe tell the audience what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tariq, and super excited about this first webinar, the first of a very long series, I'm sure. So Nico, based in Los Angeles most of the year, but currently spending a bit of time in Europe, in Stockholm. I am the founder of the Revenue Architect, a consultancy that helps founders and operators of early stage companies making the right choices when it comes to technology. So implementing the right revenue and modern data stack early on for enabling scale at a fast pace, which a lot of the people here have been doing. So I'm very excited to kick it off and talk about what they've been doing.
Awesome. So that's the round of introductions. Again, Rue here has helped us set this up. So he's our main promoter for the event. He's very good at doing webinars. He's been doing that at Nostra, and they've been having really good growth. If anyone here does webinars and wants to learn more, talk to him. He's super available. So let's set this up, Nico. Can you give us a foundation for why cybersecurity is so hard, right? What is the reason that all of us have come together here to talk about this topic?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, that's a fascinating vertical. So it wasn't so much the most sexy vertical like 5-8 years ago. And I think a lot of things happened recently. COVID-19, remote policies, like the geopolitical landscape change at the macro level, which led to a very big market development in the space. Obviously, some very big companies have been built in the States, and you have some very big oligopolies that are capturing a lot of the market, and so that makes it a very competitive space. And the challenge from a go-to-market standpoint is to be relevant, especially at an early stage in that very crowded market. And as I mentioned, there's obviously a lot of sales and marketing fatigue from the stakeholders that are the personas of those companies, CISOs, CTOs, and all those personas. And there's a lot of friction between vendor and buyer. So I think sales and marketing teams that we have on the call today had to be very creative and very innovative in the strategies that they use to be successful. And so at the end of the day, like there's a very big need for trust in education in cyber. And, the real successful companies are the one that can build early on some product expert and some really tight connection with their audience to really develop that trust and credibility and stand out from the crowd in a very empathetic way, in a very meaningful way. And, there's only so much you can do from to differentiate yourself from a product standpoint. You can, verticalize yourself, you can change your pricing, you can, integrate solution with like bundling and so on. But at the end of the day, what the real heroes of those stories, of those success stories, or, go-to-market strategists that come up with certain strategies that iterate and create those hypotheses early on, and that are able to, isolate the noise. And I think there's a few things that we can, discuss, and I'm sure they'll be mentioned in much more detail. I think what I mentioned earlier, the trust building process, building real relationships using data, do actual deep user research before outreaching to clients is what makes a difference in a very saturated, world across channels. I think the second big one is also the community building aspect. It's like, how do you maintain a human-based connection through real life events and in-person connections? The third one, I think, is social proof building through influencer marketing and different initiative towards that sense. And the last one is a very successful one when it's done right, but it's a bit of a double-edged sword. And I know for a fact some of those companies here have done it successfully, and it's channel partnership, working with MSSP consulting firms to accelerate growth through this partnership and avoid the more saturated route of outbound or regular like ads channel. So having said that, I think we can start jumping in and getting a bit of getting some insights on the strategy that some of those operators implemented. And I'll be very curious to get started with Ben and hearing a bit of the story on going back at the earlier stage at DataDome. What were the convictions and assumptions that you guys made from the founding team from a go-to-market standpoint on the sales and marketing side? What are the few experiments that you guys led early on that generated your first success, and what are the learnings there?
Yeah, so when DataDome was launched, we were basically helping companies in an emergency. Our first customers were companies who were having their website down, who were looking for a vendor that could help us get back to business very quickly. So the founders really decided to build a product that could answer that. First, by providing a free trial, which is really not popular in the cybersec industry. Many of our competitors were not even offering their prospect to test the product, or they had to go through a POC, for example. So DataDome started with a free trial with all the best SaaS best practices, transparent pricing on the website, high availability of the sales team, to really show as a company that could help companies who were under a heavy attack to get back to business very quickly. So this worked very well. We were identified as a company with many integrations, with very good response time. So we kind of differentiated ourselves from the competition on that aspect. So this worked for quite a long time, also because the bot protection industry was quite new, quite niche, and many companies didn't have any protection against it. They were basically relying on a team of engineers who were fixing those issues. But at one point, when we started to see more advanced attacks, when we started to see more AI, almost every company started to get protected. So this changed over time. Now we're not seeing that many companies coming to us because their website is down, for example. All companies are kind of protected, not enough, but they're not facing the same emergency need. So we had also to transition. We had to position ourselves differently, not only as the super agile company who could help very quickly, but being seen as a more enterprise-ready product that could also help a variety of companies who already have a solution but are looking at doing a better job at blocking the attacks. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's the first.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. And so you had this PLG approach to begin with. How did you started investing in sales to complement that that channel, and then how did you layer in marketing as well, and how did you distribute resources between those different channels?
So the motion I described initially, I must say, was mainly for SMBs, right? Our first customers were SMBs. The buying processes were quite easy and fast. The number of people we were talking to was also reduced. So when I arrived in the company in 2018, I really focused on developing inbound, creating good content, making sure that we could capture the demand when companies were looking for a solution, and all of this. Of course, there's been many milestones on the way until now, but I would say the big switch for us was when we decided to target more enterprise companies. We knew we couldn't rely on inbound only, and we had to build a strong sales and marketing motions. And this is where we've started to change many things and integrate intent signals, outbound, and everything. I think the first change was in terms of the team organization. I was managing the SDR team back in the days because their job was mainly focused on managing the inbound leads, basically. But when we decided that we wanted to have a stronger outbound motion, we transferred that team to the sales team, which is quite market practice. Then we initiated our ABM motion. So the way we wanted to do it is, look, we were selling worldwide. We had an office in the US, an office in Singapore, and one in France. So our ICP was really getting very big. And we knew we couldn't target everybody all the time. So we had to make choices. And before that, we took the lead on that motion. We kind of had marketing team working on inbound and the sales team running after their chosen target, which in the end doesn't really work because on our side, we spend budget on some accounts and maybe the sales team is working on some other accounts. So the way we've done that to align everyone was really to rely on our ABM motion and intent signal. We didn't do ABM the traditional way, I would say. We didn't say, okay, look, let's go after Nike and Walmart, like all the big logos that everyone wants on their websites. But we said, let's focus on the accounts who are ready to buy or who are looking for a solution. So the accounts that we, marketing and sales, will be choosing and focusing on will be accounts showing some level of intent, and we will adapt the strategy, the go-to-market strategy, but also the financial resources and the human resources to the level of intent that we receive on those accounts. So this is where we started to collect intent signals, to rank our target accounts in different stages, and to define with the sales team, okay, what is doing marketing and what is doing the sales? When do the sales team jump in on an account? Is it when we receive the first signal? Is it when we consider that the account is ready to evaluate a solution? So this was a very heavy process. And it also helped us build trust, because when we started to get results out of the intent-driven outbound, I would say, we were able to say to the sales team, look, we've been able to identify among 25,000 accounts, the ones that were able to have a conversation. So we are in a good position to actually build the ICP and to actually lead the target account list building. So what we're doing today is that my team is in charge of defining the ICP criteria and to provide the sales team with their quarterly target account list. This way, we, marketing and sales, work on exactly the same list of accounts, and we can build strategies where we adapt what we do and what we say, so we don't go everywhere, because this is something I've seen a lot. You can have, especially for companies selling worldwide, you can really have a mismatch between what the sales team is doing and what the marketing team is doing.
Super interesting.
Benjamin, sorry, Nico, if I ask a question to Benjamin, it's really interesting hearing that he started from 2018 till now, where I feel like cybersecurity in the market and how buyers interact has changed immensely over that period of time. And what sort of signals, really, using signals a bit differently than how we're probably going to be talking about it later, but what did you see as far as performance or about your business that you said, hey, okay, maybe we can't rely on an inbound model. We need to look at ABM, our approach to outbound, and gathering buyer signals, and say, like, we need to change how we actually go to market and organize that. What event did you see? What did you measure to make that decision?
So I must say, I've always been gathering intent signals, even before we really decided to invest heavily on outbound. Just because with the tools we use and coming from a growth background, I was trying to see which accounts we could target, for example, on LinkedIn ads. How do I spend my budget correctly on accounts that are already making some kind of research, or the accounts who are engaging on our website. Stuff like that. So very, I would say, first-party light signals that I was leveraging for inbound. And then it was kind of a lazy strategy. We had a huge target account list, and I've been in charge of defining the ICP or contributing to it, at least at the very beginning. And I didn't know where to start. Usually companies look at a ton of criteria, number of employees, revenue, industry, localization, stuff like that. And for me, none of this was given us the trigger that we were looking for. How do we do to talk to people or to companies who are looking for a solution? We were used to that because before, those companies were coming to us. They had a need, they needed to fix it quickly, they would look for a vendor, and they would contact us. But now that they were taking more time to evaluate vendors, and that they were not in the same emergency rush, we couldn't just wait and see what's coming in. So this is where I was like, okay, for me, the most intuitive way to go through that huge target account list is to first gather more signals and focus on the ones where I feel more confident selling the sales team. Okay, guys, would you choose an account where just an account that we want on the website because it's a nice logo, or an account that we've collected 10 or 15 intent signals in the last 30 days. So it's kind of intuitive, and it worked. I cannot say we only rely on that now, to be honest. Any company targeting enterprise, especially in EMEA, you can't collect as many signals as you would do in the US. So we still do some cold outreach, but this is how we went there, and we still highly prioritize the accounts with intent signals, because not only it helps us filter them and choose the right ones, but it also helps on having the right message based on the content that they visited or the signals that we collected. So it's also a resource for the sales team to feel more confident when they use the sequences, or when they jump on the phone. They have more context, so the conversion rates are higher.
And then in a few. Sorry,
Actually, I just want to jump in here. So I think Jason is pretty pertinent here, because you guys have a similar motion. And I remember you guys don't use territories for your sales rep, right? So you have something called dynamic book management. Could you tell the audience what that means?
Yeah, so certainly intent plays a big part in our prioritization for outreach to accounts as well. So our ICP is largely in the enterprise space also, but it's not strictly firmographics. We look a lot about the technographics of a company. Are they using SaaS software? Because we're typically going to be relevant to anyone that has compliance needs or using SaaS software. So using intent signals really helps to prioritize that we're assigning the right accounts to reps, and that's all done automatically instead of going through data analysts and carving out what the territories are going to be and reviewing with the business, which is just overly cumbersome. We just know that these accounts have the technographics we care about, have the right behavior, and then they're showing intent that there's people researching at the company, and then that's when we know it's ready to go out, and we should send that to our reps to start trying to engage and get conversations at those accounts.
And Jason, to keep going on that point, you've basically unified all your sources of data and tools outside of his CRM. Can you explain a bit, what triggered a project and what were the result?
Yeah, I would say certainly that this is something that I've learned in just past experience, that especially go-to-market now, you have a lot of various tools, and especially when it comes to signals that sit in your CRM, that maybe sit in, if you have a marketing team, they might use HubSpot. Like in our case, we have Salesforce and HubSpot. So we've got already dual CRMs essentially. And then tools like Google Analytics, your various other intent platforms, Clearbit, 6sense, so on, all those out there are dialing solutions like SalesLoft. So I've already named half a dozen platforms that are relevant to go-to-market and various metrics that we use. So aggregating that data into a data warehouse, in particular, I use BigQuery, and GCP, I feel, is just an easy cloud stack to use for go-to-market revenue operators. But that was really essential to allowing us to unify and get to a view of data that is just understood and well-defined across platforms, so that we don't have leadership and managers pulling out spreadsheets from multiple tools and putting their own analysis on it, which then you end up with a result that you can't necessarily replicate. So having a structured warehouse to support that is in the long run going to be a lot better for your business.
Yeah, I double down on this.
Yeah.
Actually, it's interesting because we have a range of majority of people in the chat, right? Some people come from much smaller organizations. So Jason, maybe you could tell us, at which point did you feel that it was necessary to have, the whole warehouse Airbyte kind of logic? At which point does it become necessary? And if you were at a smaller stage, what would you have used as an alternative, which is less technical?
Yeah, I think it's important to start even early on, because early on you're going to be more mobile. You can experiment more, fail and learn from that more. Whereas you grow, it's going to be harder. You're going to have to go through change processes. You're probably going to even go into change control, especially as you get into a few hundred employees. It's just going to make it more difficult. So if you make that part of your formula for how you operate as a revenue team, that it is data oriented and that there's a warehouse behind that, you're going to be better off. I think you could probably use solutions like Airbase, which are GUI driven, right? Which make it rather simple, and you can aggregate those tools as you grow. But I think ultimately you're going to want to use some light SQL options that give you a bit more flexibility in working with data.
Yeah, I just want to add something. I do agree with Jason. Even like at elba, we are much more smaller company and much more smaller team in the go-to-market. But I do believe that when you have to build the data warehouse as early as possible, because you can build building a data warehouse, it will compound on your go-to-market strategy a long time. So the more earlier you build it, it will be better for you. And maybe to give some alternative of it. So for us at elba today, we use Apollo for that. Apollo is pretty good because you have the database, you have the outreach tools, you have a dialer in it, you have a lot of this is a real all-in-one go-to-market tool. And you can even do scoring inside Apollo, and you have a lot of intents. I think they're a partner with 6sense and Bambura, and they have LinkedIn job posts, etc. So there's a lot of data inside Apollo, and you can create a lot of things. And so that's how we started. We created kind of a TAM inside Apollo with different criteria. And then based on it, we have some scoring model, and it worked really well. So it's enabled us to prioritize accounts for our reps. And it was where we are.
Actually, Karl, if I jump onto this, so sorry, Nico, just it's a good time to talk about maybe calling, because I guess a lot of people in the audience would be interested in that. You guys do a very good job of using those signals to prioritize who gets called and versus who gets put on a parallel dial versus the power dial, etc.
Yeah.
Maybe talk to us about that, because calling is very popular these days. I get a lot of questions about it.
Yeah, calling is a like it's a great topic, I would say. It's really hard for us as a French company, like operating in the US and Europe, to understand like how it works in the US, because it's very different than Europe and France, for example. And so we had a lot of troubles like when we started dialing in the US, because the market is so much different. Like one time I was like seated with my rep, and he called a CISO at 9 o'clock, 9 in the morning. And the CISO answered and said, okay, so I don't want to talk to you with you because it's like I just received like 10 calls, and I've just like, 10 calls in less than 10 minutes. It's not possible. Even if your solution is great, I cannot like answer you. So you have to like to understand the reality of like when you're a CISO in the US from a pretty decent company, because we are targeting like a SMB, so maybe like 100 to 500 employees company, and the CISO received like 10 calls in 10 minutes. So that's really horrible life. So we had to find a way to contact and to reach out to those kind of persona, like in a reliable way. So we tried a lot of dialer because there's a lot, and we have a focus on doing volume and saying, so okay, if we do 1 hour of calling and we do 100 of calling per hour, how many people that we will manage to reach out, how many we will answer, how many we will have a conversation with, and at the end, out of those like 10 conversations, how many of those conversations will manage to convert in meeting booked. So that was our key metrics to look at. And based on that, we iterate on different provider. And to name a few, we started with Nux, Nux.ai, if I remember well. And then we've switched to Aurum. I can like recommend Aurum. It's a great platform. It's a great software. They have a lot of AI stuff. One of the best features they have is that they will rotate the number of your rep based on based on the state of the prospect. For example, if the prospect is in New York, like the number will be the number of your rep will be in New York. So that's the first thing. So that increase like by maybe 5 or maybe 5%, 5 or 10% your connection rate. So that's a lot in the US because in average, like connection rate is around 2 to 3%. It really depends. So yeah, so this feature is really cool. And the other thing is that they enable you and your team to just don't have to look at your number, and they will rotate it and make it sure that you're not calling as a spam. And so for us it was a game breaker. To give you kind of a sneak peek of our numbers, like our rep in the US, he's alone. He can do like around, I would say, 500 to 600 calls a day. So that's a lot of people. But at the end, he booked meetings and he's not spending his whole day calling. And that's what's matter at the end.
And Karl, we work very closely on that specific project, and I'm curious to also hear about some of the intent signals you use for triangulation of those accounts, because calling has been very efficient because you also had some intent signal motion being set up. And that's maybe a question we can take across the board. I know, Ben, you mentioned as well some first-party data signal, and Jason, I'll be curious as well to what you're using. Maybe, what has been working in the past and what is currently working, because a lot has changed over the last 2 years in that space. So we can take this across the board.
Yeah, maybe I can start. For us, I would say it's pretty basic intent signals. Like the major one will be when we have a new hire, someone just arrived in the company, a person arrived in the company. We know that this person has budget, so they can buy. And we add to that if they have a job posting on the website or on LinkedIn. It's really simple, but I was very surprised that it works very well. And based on that, we had a lot of criteria. For example, for us, it's really important to have the tech stack. If they already have a tool for security awareness, like if they use the big player in the US will be KnowBe4 or Mimecast or Proofpoint, for example. If they use Google or Offices, like Office Outlook, sorry. so that we know which kind of email provider they have, because our product, like, we can have a very different approach based on the email provider. So yeah, I would say, yeah, new hire, job posting, and then the tech stack.
Yeah, I certainly agree. New hire and job posting are good signals. I think in particular, look out for CISO new hires, but not to connect directly with the CISO. As Karl alluded to, these people are inundated with communication all the time, and you really have to win their team over. And if you talk to a CISO, they're just going to tell you to go talk to their team anyway. So typically, if we identify a CISO at a new company, we then want to identify the personas that would be under them, right, through Cognizant, Apollo, whatever providers there are. So as long as you have your ICP role set, that's certainly something you want to figure out, and what best way to connect with them. And typically that is mobile dialing to their team. Often you'll be able to get a connection. A lot of times our pipeline is created by referrals as well. So know who your champions and stakeholders and economic buyers are. That's often the easiest way to get additional pipeline, especially in cybersecurity. If you win over a CISO, they'll take you on to the next thing, as these people often are moving between positions. So that referral, which you can even have as a technical signal, but oftentimes that just becomes a motion reps understand. Another big one for us, and this is less on a technical side backing it, but as you look at intent signals and see accounts researching various competitors or researching your space, what we like to do is assign our partner reps. So whether that's vendor resellers or advisor partners that you might have, and understand who their reps and accounts that they work. And as you see that intent data, go talk to those reps, tell them this company shows this intent data. Do you know anyone we can connect to you? And they'll be able to work with you, get it in. Those are people that really have a reputation with those companies, and it makes it a lot easier to get in with cybersecurity when you go through a partner or advisor.
Yeah, I do get this question a lot. So what are like the top performing signals, or what? Well, I think there is no easy answer. I don't trust any signal to work alone to generate business. As you do enterprise sales, you have multiple people involved with the project, engaging with your brand. So I trust the scoring. So I trust the number of signals I receive from an account and how much they are spread on different contacts, more than like a single signal. Of course, all the ones you mentioned, we're using them as well. But what does it mean to have just one job posting, or just one website visit, or like a G2 visit? Like on its own, it doesn't mean much. You can't deduce much from it. But if you get multiple touch points from multiple contacts in the same account, then of course you feel more confident reaching out to this account. Also, when we talk about signals, I think it's important to not only consider intent signals, but I like to split signals into categories. Some of them are intent, so it really shows you that this company or this contact is looking for a solution and they are willing to buy something. But some others are more engagement signal. Which signals can you use to identify in a big company which are the contacts that you can start the conversation with? Maybe it's not going to be a short sales cycles. Maybe this company is not looking for a solution right now, but this contact has been engaging with your brand, and you can have a way to put a step in the door. So I think this is interesting. Especially as you go enterprise, you need to put in place more bottom-up strategy. So you need to, like, reaching out to the CISO of Nike is a waste of time. You will never get him on the phone, or if you do, he will tell you to basically try another day or just stop doing it. So how do you put in place signals or strategies that allows you to start conversations, to educate inside that company, so whenever they have a need, you will be top of mind, and they will think about you. So that's my view.
That resonates a lot with the new concept. Like, qualifying buying group is the new ABM in a way, as leveraging as many signals from a specific group of buyer within an organization, and scoring the account according to all those, bottom-up criteria to really
Yeah.
triangulate the account and be really effective in your approach.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
really, really
I
good
also
point.
think this strategy needs to be adapted to the business. Like, yeah, the longer your sales cycles, the more you have to put this kind of stuff in place. The more expensive your product as well. But if you are in a short sales cycle with a quite affordable product, then of course it's closer to kind of B2C motions or like e-commerce motions, right? Like when people are doing research, they're willing to buy something right now or to test. So it's very different. I don't think there is one rule that works for everyone, but yeah, super aligned.
I have a question for Jason, actually. So we've talked about how cool signals are and what the impact can be. I've seen a lot of people build infrastructure for managing that signal information, right? I think if I have to say the most impressive one was yours. You do a very good job of sort of splitting what goes in the CRM versus what stays in the warehouse, and you have all this orchestration that I see every day. Can you tell us about your methodology? Like, how do you manage that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it started just in my own compulsion to collect as much data as possible, even with the understanding I may not know yet how it's going to apply to a use case, but I want to make sure that if it is something that we can play on, that the data is there, right? So it's something as simple as we have a signal object in our CRM, and that is something that is actually actionable and aggregated and ready to be presented to reps to consider. It may also just be things like there are press releases or articles shared in the security space or by competitors, and using AI to crawl those sites and aggregate that data to start pulling out just pain points from these sources that aren't typically easy to culminate, and that eventually becomes something you could use as long as you work to sourcing that. And some of that is more challenging. It's becoming easier with solutions like Cargo and Serper that can really orchestrate a lot of this. So every time we assign an account, even do things like just search for that company and any public data breaches where they've come up, and just start to summarize that data with AI, which it's just becoming easier and easier to try to get to really difficult sources of data that have pain that's important to your buyer, and just trying to aggregate that.
Maybe we can take the conversation towards scoring, because you made a really good point, Ben. And I think scoring is one of the key mechanisms that allow sales and marketing organization to be successful, right? To have like proper alignment between those two functions. So curious to see how sophisticated you guys went at DataDome, and see how you actually operationalize it from a system standpoint.
Yeah, so we started the like in-house solution where we were giving each signal a score, and then trying to score, depending on how many contacts were involved with the scoring. And well, honestly, I think it's good that we tried that, but it was too hard to manipulate and too hard to use in other channels. You end up having numbers that you need to communicate to your sales team. You always adapt the model to new stuff that you're seeing, and we kind of stopped. Now we are relying on 6sense, which is our ABM platform, to do that. The platform is learning from your deals. You can inject your signals, kind of, not all of them. It's not as custom as you'd like. But most importantly, it helps us orchestrate our other channels based on the score or the buying stage. So basically, there is a number score in 6sense, but what it gives you, it's a buying stage. So very traditional buying stage from awareness to a purchase. And this is much more easy to communicate with the sales team. You talk about buying stages rather than an amount of points. And you can also use 6sense to orchestrate your channel. So you can organize your LinkedIn ads based on the stage, for example. So this is what we do. We spend much more per account on an account who's in the purchase or decision stage than an account who's in the awareness stage. So this is the kind of motions that we put in place. I'm not saying it's perfect. I think the model works when you have a lot of customers or a lot of signals, but it's hard when you do enterprise to have a lot of successes that help you adjust the model and say, okay, like when we see this signal in the journey, it's a very high intent. I think the volume that we manipulate compared to like a B2C or other businesses is still quite small. So it takes a long time for the models to adapt. So at the very beginning, don't trust the model too much. Trust your gut. An account visiting your pricing page and your G2 page, I mean, go for it. Don't wait for the platform to tell you that this account is looking for a solution. Even depending on something we've seen in the past when we were doing in-house scoring is you need to adapt your the number of accounts that you work on to the activity of your company. In some regions, we had peaks of activities because we were exhibiting to a show. So the bandwidth of the sales team to do cold outreach or intent-driven outreach was much smaller. So we were, always changing the score. So, right now we need more accounts in EMEA. So let's change the score so they receive more accounts. So this you need to adapt all the time. So this is something we always tell to the sales team or to any new joiner is we have a system, we have a model, so use it. So when you receive like a notification for a hot account, of course, trust it, but don't sleep on it. If you need to fill your pipe, use your sales intuition and dig in the CRM, look at the signals that you get. Also, if you don't have any signal, that happens sometimes. Ask us what kind of cold outreach you can do, etc., etc. I don't know if
I actually have a
that's...
question from the community. Sorry, go ahead, Karl.
So yeah, if I can just have a quick question. So your rep can override your scoring, right?
They can't really override, but they have access to all the signals that we collect.
Okay.
So they can filter the accounts in their portfolio by a specific signal or by the number of signals that they have. This way, even if an account has not been identified as a MQA or like a hot account, they can still see which accounts receive the signals and what kind of signals.
Okay, cool. I see. Thanks.
Because we're speaking about signals, I had a question from the audience. So before the webinar, and the question was the following: how are you using AI to package information you collect from signals to send to your sales reps? Anyone can take this. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'll talk briefly on it. This is one that we recently started to do, particularly when looking at Google search data and articles. I think applies really well because you don't want to just be linking a bunch of articles to sales teams and be like, hey, here you go read that. I don't think it's going to be quite helpful, but using OpenAI to certainly just summarize that to the bullet points and then pull out any pain from, in our case, we typically have it pull out pain in the perspective of a cybersecurity engineer or an identity access manager. And that's really important to think about those prompts when you're summarizing that data. You probably want to write one that will be in a perspective of your buyer, depending on what that data is.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, also we do also pre-package kind of some messages for our rep. So based on the signals that we manage to gather, like we can create like a pre-created message so that they can just have to click send to the persona. That is the first thing. And also, as Jason said earlier, I really like the fact that when you can gather a lot of data and you can use Cargo, as you said, like with Serper to scrap all the news about the company. But in the end, it implies like for me, it implies a lot of technical stuff to do. It's another workflow to add, and like we are a small team at Elba, so I try to save as much time as possible. And for that, one of the key thing that helped me like in the past few months, I would say, is using an AI agent to do all of that stuff. So for example, like it's a pretty simple use case, as Jason said, like to maybe to gather all the news about the company. Or for us, it would be, for example, to say, we want to know if a company is SOC 2 compliant, or to see who's the client of this company on the website. it's a pretty easy task. You can do it with Serper, you can do it like with a lot of tools. But in the end, it implies like a lot of manual review, etc. So with an AI agent, you can do all this stuff by just like querying like with one prompt, and then you wait for the answer, for the output, and then you put the output in your database or somewhere. And yeah, I was so surprised to see that it's so powerful and so reliable, and not that expensive.
Yeah, on our side, we're not using AI to really work on the signals, but more to help the sales team build their perfect pitch or have the full context on a company by mixing data sources from web research, CRM data, other data that we have. It takes so much time for a rep to go in the CRM, to go in SixSense, to like look at the previous context on a specific account, like, oh, did we talk to them before? Did we open a deal before? Like stuff like that we're using. We've built an AI tool to kind of summarize all the data sources in a very short and comprehensive way for any rep who just joined the company to really know what to do and really know what to say about this company. So this is one of the use cases. But yeah, I made some notes on what you said before, Karl and Jason.
Excellent. I have another question. We still have time to attack. So we've talked a lot about scoring, but what are the limits of this scoring-based approach? When should you sort of ignore your scoring and have sort of a fast lane for routing leads to your reps? Maybe Benjamin, you can start and the others can follow.
Yeah, so as I said, scoring works only when you have a certain amount of data. So if you don't have enough data, your scoring model must be based on your previous success. So you need a few customers, you need to be able to track back their journeys. What did they do? What signals did we collect to understand, and then give a scoring. There is no scoring model that works for every company. That's bullshit. So you need to build it for you, and to do that, it's like building a training model for AI, right? The model will need to learn from what it gets. And then I think this is more of an EMEA challenge, but of course, many signals still rely on cookie. So the less cookies you have, the less signals you have, the less things you can track. And of course, if you rely too much on signals, in EMEA, it's a challenge. I think it would be a mistake to fully rely on signals in EMEA. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. In particular, we use scoring in really 2 factors. Our ICP, which that largely doesn't change. Maybe we'll iterate on that, but that is based on known technographics, firmographics, and events that our buyers fall into, and we usually back that up with where we know we win revenue. And then as it comes to like signal scoring, it's something we leverage to rather summarize that into various categories. Benjamin mentioned like hot, warm, tepid, and cold, so on. But really at Zilla, what I like to do is enable the reps to, particularly with dynamic book management, we give a certain number of accounts and you can decide like, this is what we believe are the right accounts to target and go outreach to. But if you disagree, you can return it and you have the ability to make that decision for yourself, and we'll give you a new one that we feel is then next best fitting. So it also gives this continuous cycle of enabling the rep to make a decision, return something that they don't really believe in, gives data back to the revenue team to review that and say, are there considerations we should make on the type of accounts we're distributing? And it just becomes this constant feedback loop that both enables the reps and then helps you understand, are these the right accounts?
And yeah, maybe I can add one last thing, and maybe to rephrase, to take what Benjamin said earlier. Like we are a smaller company, so we have maybe less data than like Jason and Benjamin. But in the end, I do believe one thing, and it applies for salespeople, but also for like growth and go-to-market people. You have to trust your guts, because like even if the trend is not like statistically reliant, like you cannot like based all your analysis on maybe 2 to 5 customers, because it's like, it doesn't make sense. But in the end, you have to trust your guts. And if you believe that these signals, this intent, and this criteria is really important for your scoring, I think you have to push for it.
Yeah, one point that resonates a lot with what I've heard before is, especially early stage, your scoring model needs to look forward at your customer that you're going to acquire in the next 6 months are most likely going to be very different from the customer you acquired in the last 12 months, because it's just going to be a natural evolution. And if you build your lead scoring based on empirical data, you might skew it towards a certain type of customer that are not the one you want to acquire in the future. So that's the framework. Is start with your ICP customer you want to acquire, and then build your scoring on top of that.
Excellent. So we have 4 minutes left. We're going to start wrapping up in a couple of minutes. Nico, do you have some final question to ask to the panelists?
I think I have a question that I've been wanting to ask Ben earlier. You mentioned an early stage of the conversation, having some kind of triangulation where you use your sales team in combination with some ad campaigns, namely LinkedIn. Could you give us a bit of a context to how adding intent signal on top of LinkedIn campaign impacted your return on ad spend? Did you see it? Have you created some A/B tests on the impact of those multi-channel on the return of ad spend?
Yeah. So basically, before we were we were taking our ICP list and uploading it to LinkedIn, and we were trying to be visible to all the ICP accounts. When you have a limited budget, which was and still is our case, you end up showing your ads to only a very limited number of times, or to a very small number of companies, because you can't be visible a lot. So we decided to then only target accounts who were showing some level of intent. We've stopped that now. We do more brand awareness stuff as well. But when we presented the ABM project to the sales team, we said marketing is in charge of creating the first signals and engagement, and you will start working on the accounts when we think they are ready to have a sales conversations. So this is where we introduced the concept of MQA for marketing qualified accounts, meaning that through ads, content, awareness, we try to generate some signals, basically bring the companies on the website, have them follow us on LinkedIn or other stuff. And when we have multiple signals from an account, this is where the sales team starts their outreach. And this is where we also start to invest more on those accounts. And yeah, when we started to do that, we've seen two things. First is the reach was much higher for the accounts that we were actually advertising to. No surprise, you use the same budget on like 4 or 5 times a smaller list of accounts. So you get more penetration, and you also get more views. And then we saw more intent signals from those accounts, because they were seeing DataDome on multiple channels. So they had more opportunities to engage with us. So it helped. We can't rely on that only, because, yeah, as you said before, you also need sometimes to explore new industries or new geo, and ads can be leveraged to generate awareness. So we now have the 2 motions, and we've defined specific budget for the 2 motions. We do invest more when we have signals, because, yeah, once again, we have like a kind of feedback loop, and it's working well. But we also want to keep on generating awareness and visibility for our ICP list.
Yeah, really good example on how to do more with less at the beginning.
Exactly.
Excellent. We're at 59 now, so we have 60 seconds left. I feel like at some point we're going to get asked to do a sequel of this event. Very cool that you guys all came. Thank you for the attendees who came and stayed all the way. We're going to be sharing a replay, so you're going to be hearing more about this conversation further. You can feel free to contact any of these panelists, for advice. You can also contact us. We see them build every day things on Cargo. I'm sure I'm going to be speaking to Benjamin later this week. Karl next week, and Jason, we spoke yesterday. So yeah, thank you for coming. We'll be doing more of these events, so stay tuned. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that was valuable.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks. See you next time.
Everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Ciao, ciao, everyone. Thank you for coming.